So we're here today at the Royal and Derngate Theatre in Northampton, and we're talking to Steve Schaefer. Hi, Steve.
Hiya.
Steve's a senior technician here at the theatre, and he's going to take us through one or two of the challenges and problems facing the technician when setting up for live sound. So, Steve, could you take us through a couple of the sort of main basic problems that face you on a sort of day-to-day basis setting up live sound?
Our main problem is getting coverage to the auditorium from our amplified system. So we have to make sure we put the speakers in the right places so as not to block sight lines from the various members of the audience. Have to make sure that the whole auditorium is covered evenly. So it starts, with the basics of literally where we stick the speakers.
Right.
We need to be able to stick the speakers in a way that's going to avoid the feedback issues on stage as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we stick them as far out into the auditorium as possible, so they're as far away from the performers as we can get. Make sure they're not pointing it to any hard surfaces so they're not reflecting back onto the stage. So we want to try and keep the ambient noise down as much as we can.
And you mentioned specifically their feedback. What are the sort of common sources of feedback in a theatre environment like this?
It's the acoustic noise of the room itself. You have lots of hard surfaces in a room like this where the sound can bounce off. So the sound's going to come from the speakers, come out into the auditorium and bounce back onto the stage and straight down the microphone.
Right.
Then from the microphone, straight back out the system, and there we have our feedback.
Yeah.
The acoustics in a room like this are very good for non-amplified things, but when we start amplifying things, it mounts up.
Yeah.
And you can.
Sure.
This room's quite a loud acoustic room.
So what about the challenge of stage monitoring so that the performers can hear what they're doing? Does that cause any issues with feedback?
Yes, it does. Yes, it's one of the biggest challenges actually. You have to enable the performers to be able to hear themselves and the rest of the mix, and quite often they want it quite a lot louder than as a sound engineer I'd like to provide it. So I have to try and strike a balance between getting it as loud as possible on stage to satisfy the performer and not discolouring my front of house sound or not causing myself any feedback issues.
Sure.
So I have to think about where I position the monitors on stage. I have to think about where I put them in relation to the microphone as well, and how close the performer might be to the speakers and things like that. So the closer I can get the performer to the monitors, the less volume I have to put out the monitors, and so I'm going to have less feedback issues. I would select a microphone and position the monitors accordingly so that they're outside of the pickup field of the microphone as much as possible, whether that be directly behind the microphone or out to the side, depending on the pickup of the microphone.
Yeah, so you're thinking about two principal things there. You're thinking about the sensitivity of the microphone, its pickup range, and you're also thinking about the volume and sort of range of the speakers as well.
Yes, yeah. And the louder I can get the performer to be in relation to ambient noise, the better. I always need the ratio of the signal you want to the ambient noise to be as high as you can.
Yep. And then moving very nicely on to the next problem that you seem to face is the potential for ambient noise.
Yes, yeah. Unlike in a studio, we've got a nice quiet environment. Here we have to contend with various things such as the air conditioning making noises. We have doors banging. We can have quite big moving light rigs with fans and things in them, and they can be very noisy. So you try your best to cut out the noise by moving those sources away from your microphones, point your microphones away from things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some things like the fans you can sometimes EQ out, but certain things like doors banging, you just can't do anything about.
Yeah,
just have to
that's right.
Grin and bear it.
Okay, so one of the other problems that I can see, if I can put it politely, is the behaviour of performers on stage.
Yes, yeah, it can cause many problems. The first problem we have with performers on stage is how they might hold the microphones. A lot of performers like to hold microphones in a way that is not the best. It could increase the possibility for feedback. So we try and educate the performers in the best way to hold a microphone so that it's not going to do that and get the most out of their performance.
Yeah.
They're also quite good at moving things around for you, which is very frustrating. They have maybe specific ways they would like the floor wedges laid out that makes them comfortable, but might make things difficult for me, the sound man. So there's a lot of communication involved to try and help themselves to get the best sound out of the system. Yeah,
so it's a two-way learning process between yourselves and a performer.
And if you can show them a better way of doing things, and they can take that on to the next performance, and might make it easier for them at the next one.
So here at the Derngate, you've got a fairly new digital desk setup. What kind of advantages does that afford you?
Oh, this is fantastic with the digital desk because it takes up a much smaller footprint within the auditorium. And sat here in the stalls, it's a very expensive place to be. The seats here are very valuable to us. So the less space we can take up, the better. And the digital desk allows us to have lots of channels in a very small footprint. And also, we don't have to have separate dynamics racks. So there's no racks full of EQ or gates, compressors. It's all on board, so it takes up much less room. It also makes the setup time much quicker. The system here is constantly up and down and in and out, so the less time we spend cabling it all together and setting it up, the better, really.
Yeah, and it's great because you haven't got many cables coming into the system at all, which is really handy.
No, we have very few. About that. Yeah, this system can operate with just the power coming in and a Cat5 cable. We have a digital multi-core system, so just 2 cables and the system can be up and running.
It's fantastic. In terms of sort of labelling the desk and the channels, do you have a sort of preferred labelling system that you use?
The desk itself lets you label the channels electronically using on the screen here. But myself and a lot of other kind of engineers that have been used to the analog ways, we still like to put a bit of white tape across it and just write on it with a Sharpie or something. Yep. Just gives you a nice safety net. And you can see things a bit easier.
So in terms of some of the other advantages afforded to you by a sort of digital system, I believe that you've got a facility here where you can wirelessly control the desk.
Yes, we're very lucky here. We can walk around with like a tablet PC or something like an iPad. When we're doing our sound checks, we can check the sound from any of the seats anywhere around the auditorium and adjust it as we need to. We can communicate wirelessly to our actual sound system or the desk itself. And I can also, for instance, go to stage and check monitor mixes with the musicians.
Fantastic.
With a tablet or a laptop or something, and be on stage putting more things or less things in their monitor or EQ monitors from the stage. It's a very handy system.
Yeah, really advanced use of technology.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely to see different things being used together to help you and help the performers and also help the audience as well.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it better for everyone. It can make it more difficult because it's more systems to learn, and as well as being conversant with the sound equipment, it turns into a bit of a network engineer as well. So there's a lot of IT issues to make it all work.
So you need additional skills rather than replacement skills for using this kind of new setup. You've got the old tricks like microphone placement, speaker placement, understand cabling, those kind of things, the typical issues with feedback, but also you need to understand digital technologies, you need to understand networking and those kind of things.
Yes, increasingly these days, and with digital consoles now being so commonplace, the ability to be able to work with IT equipment and in particular networking is a real handy skill to have these days. It's going to be more and more important as we go more digital.